Welcome back to the Money Script Podcast. It's your host, Johan C. Harrison. So happy to be with each and every one of you today. And we are still real, like it's YouTube world again. So shout out to all the dozens of subscribers, as I get to call you, not just listeners now, that are also joining us on YouTube. Eventually, we'll probably even have some, fancy little infographics and stuff. But we're working on that. So interns, if you're a college student and you like to show your creativity and work on things like infographics and jazz up little YouTube videos, give us a call. We'd love to help you build your resume. Actually, don't call me. Send me an email, tweet, one of those type things, and we'll talk to you soon. Speaking of tweet, I'm really excited for the guest we have today. It is my new friend, Michael Policar. Him and I have been going back and forth on Twitter for a long time. And just one day I was like, look, I got to get you on the podcast because we're having so much fun on Twitter. So before we get to him, just give you guys a quick catch up on everything that's going on in the world right now. Depending on when you're listening to this might be a little bit of old news, but they did pass the new it wasn't clean air. It was some sort of act where they're about to spend a lot of money and supposedly on curbing inflation, but I'm still trying to figure out how they're going to spend money to make inflation go down. That one's just a little weird to me. I'm still working on that. But one of the most exciting things that came out of it, I guess exciting is probably not the right word. Scary things that came out of it. Hopefully it's a positive thing that $80 billion is going to the Internal Revenue Service. Yeah, that's with a B, 80 billion. Funny part about it, I went through and I was reading different parts of it. Apparently, they need to spend like $50 million to know how to spend $80 billion. It was really weird. I thought that was really exciting. And there's a lot of stuff going on out there in the social media world saying that, they're going to start auditing everybody and they're hiring like 87,000 people. Yeah, they are, but it's over 10 years. And they're actually expected to lose like 50,000 of their workforce over the next 10 years. Yes. Are they going to get larger? Yes. Will they probably ramp up doing some of their auditing? Yes. Will they try to find people that are breaking the law? Yes. So there's an easy solution to not be scared. Don't break the law. And speaking of law, there was some interesting news in the political world as well about law breaking when it comes to the IRS. I'll let you guys look that up on your own time. But again, there's nothing to be, I would say, afraid of. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, get help from a professional if you don't know what you're doing. Don't go this road alone. Yes, tax professionals, financial professionals, they're not free. However, if they're providing value, it's worth it. So if you don't know what you're doing, go get someone to provide some value for you. I mean, even if you're a TurboTax user where it says, hey, would you like us to help you with this submission and talk to a tax pro? Click the button. Okay. It can't hurt. If they don't provide any value, then click another button that says, give me my money back. And I'm sure they'll try to work something out. But with no further ado, I want to get into this interview today with my good friend, Michael Policar. Michael, welcome to the Money Script Podcast. How are you?
I am doing pretty good, yo. I appreciate the invite to come and chat with you. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And like you said, we've sort of been going back and forth on Twitter for a long time. And yeah, it's fun to finally, have a conversation like human beings.
Yes, indeed it is. Even though we're kind of doing it for our audience too, but we're still going to have, we're going to have some fun. And for those of you that are wondering, because I didn't say it, I need to say it now. So Michael is also a financial advisor. And I know you're like, wait, why do you have other financial advisors on your show and you're a financial advisor? I've told you guys this before, guys, gals, everyone. I've said this before. Michael's not my competition. I'm not his competition. You know what our competition is? All those streaming channels that you have where you're not even watching half of them. That's our competition. Okay. You know what else is our competition? Cancun or wherever island that you're going to instead of planning for your kids' education or planning for your own financial independence. I'm not saying that vacations aren't important. I'm just saying that, as I said earlier, let's get some help. But look, I want to talk to Michael. So Michael, you are the founder of NGP. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. NGP Financial Planning. We started that January of 2021. And if I can throw in one other competitor that both you and I share, that would be inertia. So somebody who just doesn't want to do anything, right? They don't want to put the effort into taking action. I think that's our biggest competitor. You know what? I participate in my company's 401k. I get the match. I do this. I'm probably okay. That I think is my true competitor.
That
So
you are absolutely correct. That is a true competitor. That's probably our biggest competitor.
I think so.
That's probably and for those individuals that those are the ones that when they finally get the urge to sit down with us, I mean, we just have to look and say, ah, well, yeah, you did great. You put all of your money into your 401k pre-tax and you have a lifestyle that's going to require $100,000 a year. So congratulations, you're going to be in the same tax bracket as you were when you were working. And they say, I have to pay taxes on that? Yes,
Right.
you do. Like, you didn't hear about a Roth IRA? I mean, it's only been around, 25, 30. How long has it been around? 97? Let's go with a long time.
Yeah,
25
long time.
years?
25. Yeah.
25 years? You never heard of that? Oh, okay. Well, and then they're like, so what can I do? I mean, lower your lifestyle, work longer. That's about it. But glad
Yeah.
you made it this far. Go ahead and sign this rollover paperwork really quick. Wait, first, let's go through this best interest disclosure. Actually, Michael,
Thank
let's
you.
talk about the best interest. Let's talk about that because
Yeah.
I wasn't able to make it to your webcast that you had about the best interest. Can you share with our listeners and viewers what the best interest disclosure is?
Yeah. So a new rule, I don't know how new it is. It was passed in 2020 and went into effect this year, which kind of takes a long time, but that we're not talking about the efficiencies of government here. Uh, but it basically says that our clients, when we are recommending that they either roll over or not roll over a retirement account, whether that's a 401k, a 403b, a 457 plan, TSP if they're federal employees, even an IRA that they have at some other firm, to our firm, we need to go through a series of questions and disclosures and list potential conflicts of interest to make sure that they are aware, to demonstrate that they are aware of what might be different from their current setup. So in the air of trying to do what's right for our clients, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a phenomenal thing. Trying to figure out a way to systematically do it across every IAR or registered investment advisor rep, like what we are. Um, it's been a challenge, which is why I think it took 2 years or a year and a half to get the language figured out and actually put the work into effect. Um, and so the disclosure document, it basically asks questions. What's different about your plan versus what the client is currently experiencing? Are the costs different? Are the options different? Are they getting more or less service? All of those things. And so as an advisor, we fill out those answers and then we share that with the client and they sign it, um, authorizing or whatever. I'm blanking on the word, but basically saying, yeah, I realize that all of these things are different. Maybe it costs me more money. Maybe it costs me the same amount of money, but I realize that it's not exactly the same as how I had it before. And so then we keep that on file for someday when some regulatory agency comes knocking and asks to see it. What I think is kind of interesting is that I don't know that any one specific regulatory agency has the responsibility to do that. It's a Department of Labor. I don't know if it's a rule or a law. Technically,
I think
I'm
Department of Labor is rules.
is
Yes.
rules. Okay.
Hmm.
And so in theory, they would be the ones that could. The Department of Labor would be the body that could regulate that. I don't know if it's going to be the states. I don't know if it's going to be the SEC, if it's going to be FINRA or whoever it is. But anyway, as advisors, we have to make sure our clients are aware of the differences between how they're set up now and how they're going to be set up once they take action on our recommendation or don't take action. And that rule went into effect really in force July. I believe it was July 1st of
July
2022.
1st.
Technically, I
I,
think
I
it
had to go
was.
back. I had to
Yeah.
go back on a couple. I was like, wait a minute, we got to go back and do this real quick.
Yeah. And I think that's been a big thing. So I think there's a lot of firms that, I just saw a headline flash across my computer that said a lot of firms are self-correcting problems and failure to disclose. I'm going to be moving an IRA next week, so that'll be my first one. I think everything else that I had done was prior to the rule going into effect, and I think there'll be one or two more between now and the end of the year. But yeah, it's an important rule. It's like I said, to help inform the people that we serve. And I think things that are designed to help inform the people that we serve are inherently good. Is it a little bit of a
Agreed.
pain in the butt for us? Sure, but it is what it is, right? That's what we have to do to continue to do business. So I think it's good. The way it was rolled out was sloppy. I mean, this is
Oh,
legislation, or not legislation, but rule making that dates back to, I think, 2014 or 2015, when they
yeah, I
first came
think in
out with the best
2015.
interest rule. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was 2015. What's interesting about the best interest rule for me and for all of you as listeners is that and viewers, subscribers, whatever you refer to yourself as, um,
fans.
fans, yes, fans, is that companies like Fidelity and who else would do it? Fidelity would do it, and Empower. They would ask this question when you're doing a rollover: have you received the tax notice, the special tax notice regarding rollovers? And that's basically what our best interest disclosure is. It's
Yeah,
the
pretty
special
much.
tax notice broken down in a way that's saying, do you actually understand? Because the question was always, have you received it? Not if you read it, just did you receive it? And I always found that to be a little bit of I'll call it a joke. Like, really, we're just asking if people received it. I mean, thankfully, when I was involved in those situations, or when you were involved in those situations, Michael, we were there to help educate the clients. But I remember just one time asking a client, like, hey, I know you received it, but did you read it? No. Do I need to? I was like, well, I mean, yes, you should. It's a special tax notice. I'm like, well, am I going to pay tax? Well, no, you're not. But are you aware that you have what the options are, what the risks are, et cetera? So I do appreciate that we are at least um, putting our clients in a position where they have to at least affirm that they whether or not they read it, but at least they have to affirm that, okay, yes, I see this, it's been disclosed to me, and I'm willing to sign off to say that I am aware of my options. So it does turn into it's a CYA for us as well.
For
Um,
sure.
for when when things can come up or things don't go as well as expected, we can at least have that to stand on and say, no, we talked about this. We talked about this. So tell
On
me,
this
Michael.
date, and these were
Yep,
the
and
questions, and these are all the things we
mhm.
discussed. Yeah,
I have the
definitely
timestamp
helps.
of your IP address when you DocuSign this.
Exactly.
So, Michael, you mentioned that your firm is relatively new. Tell me, where were you before you came into financial services?
So my firm is new. My experience in financial services is not. But I did have a short stint. Well, I don't know if it was short. It was about 10 years in the broadcast business, so radio and TV.
Oh,
And
no wonder you're so poised.
I mean, yeah, I'm not really afraid of the microphone. The camera is a little bit different for me. I was never on camera. I did some radio stuff, voice work, different things like that, but I was not, you know, out in front of the camera. Hence, I wear t-shirts, and usually basketball shorts, but I dressed up for you today. I'm wearing golf shorts.
I appreciate that. He is, ladies and gentlemen, we are both wearing shorts.
Perfect. Yeah, it needs to be said at
Needs to
this
be
day
said.
and age.
This day and age, people need to know that we are wearing shorts.
But I got into financial services in 2012. I react slow a lot of the times to things, to stimulus, if you will. And so when the great financial crisis, great recession, whatever you want to call it, GFC 2007 through 2009 hit, I saw a lot of people that I thought were super smart, wealthy, well educated, just like they make the right moves. who sold everything at the bottom and like for several years didn't get back into the market. And I just thought I was baffled by that. I was like, you know how this stuff works. You've been investing for years, if not decades. And what are you doing? Like, why are you getting out when it's cheap? That's when you're supposed to be getting in.
Hmm.
So anyway, that sort of sparked in my mind, I should be helping people with financial planning, with investing, with money management, all of those things. And so I started exploring what are the options, what are the paths to do that. And there's several, but the one I went down was I knew I didn't want to be an insurance salesman. That was the easiest one to get. If you call somebody and say, I'd like to come work at your firm, and they're like, great, come sell whole life insurance, you could probably get a job within, I would say, 3 days, probably not
Or
much
faster.
longer
No,
than
they
that.
might put you to work the same day. They'll give you a stack of leads and tell you to start calling.
Yeah, I mean, you call them early enough in the morning. Yeah, by that afternoon, you probably have the hat and the golf towel and everything. um, so anyway, I talked with a lot of different firms. I talked with big firms. I talked with small firms. The biggest firm I talked to, well, I guess at the time was probably Morgan Stanley. I don't know. Might have been that. It was Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo Advisors, and Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
And then some smaller firms, one as small as there were 3 people in the firm.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. Is there a difference between a financial advisor that works at an insurance company? Is there a difference between that advisor and the one that works at Merrill Lynch and the one that works at some private boutique firm and the one that works at, any of these other companies? And there's dozens of them. And what I knew I wanted was sort of a larger institution behind me, training, teach me what I don't know about this industry. Money management and stuff like that, I have a pretty good, sense of. And this is 2000, probably 10 and 11 that I'm sort of going through these mental gymnastics. Anyway, to make a long story short, I end up taking a role with Wells Fargo Advisors as a financial advisor in training. Was there for a while, got recruited to Merrill Lynch not long after that. And then when the initial DOL best interest rule came out, I was at Merrill. Merrill got all excited. Yeah, okay, if we have retirement accounts, we're going to be fiduciaries on those. Even before the rule went into effect, and here's all the things that it means. And I was like, yeah, this is good. Like, I think people should have my best interest in mind if they're managing my money. Call me crazy, but that seems like table stakes.
Seems like it.
Yeah,
Should be at
it
least. Yeah.
should be. Yeah. And so the fact that I didn't or wasn't in that position, I was not a fiduciary at Wells Fargo. I was not a fiduciary at Merrill Lynch. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I should be.
Mm.
I thought I was always going to put my client's best interest first. But if I have this title and role where I have a legal obligation to put my client's best interest first, that's just more firepower for I'm not going to do anything that is questionable. I'm not going to put my revenue numbers or income before any decisions that we make for clients. So I had that in my mind because I thought it was crazy otherwise. And then I decided to pursue that as my vocation. So, suitability and all of that on the broker dealer side at the time, moving from that to the fiduciary world where I had that fiduciary responsibility to my clients. I did that when I left Merrill Lynch in 2018, and I joined a team that was part of a big RIA roll-up. And then January of 2021, I left that group and started NGP. Then it's been a journey ever since.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so for our fans out there, Michael used a couple of words that you may or may not be familiar with, and I just want to back up and cover those. So he mentioned a fiduciary. Okay, so as registered investment advisors, we have a fiduciary standard that we have to live up to. And that standard is that we have to do what's in the best interest of our clients before we do what's in our own interest. So that's a question you should ask yourself when you're trying to think, okay, should I hire a financial advisor or broker or an insurance agent, whoever it is that you're going to get this help from? Uh, would you rather have someone that is a fiduciary? And if you decide that yes, you do want a fiduciary, the next question is the person that you're interviewing or is the person you're working with a fiduciary? And one of the easiest things to do is just ask them. It should be a very short answer. Yes. If it's anything other than yes.
It's a one-word answer. Yep.
So one word, if it's anything other than yes, then you may want to do some research. Now, I'm not saying that non-fiduciaries are bad people. I'm just saying that they're not fiduciaries.
I would agree with that. And can I take it one step further, Yo?
Please.
So I'll go so far as to say, if you're interviewing advisors or potential advisors, make sure at least one that you talk to is a fiduciary and has that responsibility to you. But just because someone is a fiduciary doesn't mean they're a good advisor. And just because someone isn't a fiduciary doesn't mean they're not a good advisor, and doesn't mean they aren't going to put your best interest first all the time. So it gets even more cloudy out there, but I think have the conversation, ask the question, and to your point, it's a one-word answer. If somebody asks me, "Are you a fiduciary?" my simple answer is yes. And if I wasn't, it might be no, but and then an explanation.
I was in the same boat. I was in a big wirehouse, and I was in the same boat when they would ask the question. It was a no, but I'm a good person.
Yeah, exactly. So, but trust me.
Yeah. Why do you love Twitter?
Probably because of the dopamine releases that I get from getting likes and retweets and engagement. I honestly think there's like some sort of chemical addiction thing there. And I think Twitter knows that, and all social media knows that. And they prey upon people like me who are looking for that outlet. No, I think I just get to be me, and people either like it or they don't. And I can tell that because I'll be scrolling through somebody's, tweet thread or whatever. And then I can't see somebody else's tweet because they've blocked me. So, so you like me, you don't like me, whatever. But I'm sort of a person that I don't really take a lot of things very seriously. And I take my work seriously, and that's about it. Everything else to me is like, we should have fun. We should enjoy life. Like, we're not here for that long. I'm 38 coming up on 39. And, I've maybe got 40 years tops left.
Actuarially, about 40, 45 years. Yep.
Yeah. And so the first maybe 40 was a good learning experience. The next 40, I just want to spend living. And Amen. So for me, I love people. I can't show it to you, but right on my computer screen, my wife convinced me to do this, but I finally printed out like my favorite personal quote. And it just says, "My biggest investment is in my relationships." And that's sort of like my driving principle in life. It's not a business thing. It's something that I picked up from my grandfather, who passed away in 2000. But so I was a senior in high school, but we were very close. He lived nearby, so that helped. And he was he was a friendly, outgoing, extroverted guy. And so I learned a lot from him. But the thing that I think I learned the most about myself was that I just love people. I love talking to people. I love being around people. I'm energized by having conversations. And I believe that is at least the definition that I use of extrovert. So I look at myself as, I just want an extension of being able to talk with people. And Twitter really filled that, specifically during the pandemic, when it was like, hey, you can go outside your house for limited periods of time, but don't like leave your yard if you are lucky enough to have one. Maybe if you want to go for a walk, like, make sure you're well distanced from any other human beings that you see. So I think, Twitter sort of filled that social outlet that was missing for however long it was missing. And maybe it's still missing to a certain extent. So I've just in the last, 2.5 years or whatever, I've really increased the usage of it. I initially got on there. It's kind of funny because I was looking for, it was like podcasts or video interviews with Richard Thaler and Daniel Kahneman. And I had heard, I can't remember which podcast it was, but one of them was on a podcast I heard. And then I found that person's Twitter feed and I was like, Twitter, oh, isn't this just so celebrities can tell you what they had for breakfast? And then I found FinTwit, and which is finance Twitter. So it's a bunch of money nerds like
Oh,
us
we're nerds.
that
Oh yeah,
that
we're
get
nerds.
together and nerd out about, stuff that the average person would just find abhorrent. Just like this is awful. Why are you talking about basis points and the Fed and all of these things? But it's the world we all live in, and I found two things with it. One, it's a great just sort of social outlet, but two, especially as a solo entrepreneur, you can see I'm in the global headquarters of NGP here, which is one of the bedrooms in my house, and this is it. This is the whole you have the whole company on your podcast video. This is the entire organization right now.
I love that. I'm going to start saying that. We are broadcasting from the worldwide headquarters of the Money Script podcast.
Yes.
Sounds good. That's my
Why
next
not,
opening.
right?
Why not?
Somebody's listening or watching outside the
Oh
confines
no,
of the
I've
US.
seen
So
I've seen the little
you're global, my
algorithm
man. You're
and shows
global.
me like, oh, we're global. We're in every country. Well, no, not every country. Excuse me. We're on every continent,
There you go.
including Antarctica, because I had a client that went on an Antarctic cruise, and I said, when you get Wi-Fi, I just need you to play the podcast so I can get the little ping from Antarctica.
From
Like,
Antarctica.
yes,
Nice.
all the continents, all
That's
of them.
sweet.
So
That's
I
sweet.
can officially say worldwide.
I love it.
So there was a conversation on Twitter earlier today, and I'd like to get I have two questions for you because we're going to wrap up here a little bit. But the first one, our good friend Surgify on
Oh
Twitter. By
yeah.
the way, you owe me a interview, Surgify. We've talked about this. You said yes, and then that was it. You have the link. Click the link and schedule your podcast.
Come
Michael
on,
can do it.
doc.
You can do it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
don't
I
tell
could
me.
figure it out, the doctor,
Yeah,
the surgeon could figure it out.
exactly. It's not surgery. Okay, it's a click schedule. He asked a question this morning, and the question, and I'd like to pose it to you as another advisor. What is risk?
Ooh, can I steal my answer from Morgan Housel?
Please.
So Morgan had said something at some point, and I'm pretty sure it's in his book, The Psychology of Money, which you should read if you haven't. It's a phenomenal
Oh,
book.
we've been talking about that for dozens of
Okay.
episodes. That's
Yeah.
actually currently the book that our book club is doing. For those of us that are
Nice.
following on Instagram, that is our book club book right now. So if you haven't got your copy of it, shoot me a little tweet. Maybe you'll get a copy of it. But go ahead, quote Morgan, please.
Yeah. So Morgan said, risk is what's left over after you think you've thought of everything. And I like that. And there's a lot of different ways to define risk, specifically as an advisor too, because we're having conversations with people who are preparing to retire, in retirement, dealing with the loss of a loved one or a spouse or somebody else that was like a breadwinner in the relationship, or the opposite side of things, people that are just getting started with investing, somebody who's setting up their first 401k for the first time or trying to buy stocks for the first time. And risk is going to mean a different thing to basically every single person that we talk to. And so risk generally, I love Morgan's definition of it. Risk being what's left over after you think you've thought of everything, but on an individual basis. So for the folks listening and watching, when you think about risk, it doesn't matter what I think risk is. It doesn't matter what Yo thinks risk is. It doesn't matter what the good doctor thinks risk is. It matters what you think risk is. So for me, I own a lot of stocks personally. And then I have a savings account with a bunch of cash in it. I don't keep a lot of bonds and I don't keep a lot of cash in my portfolio generally, because the volatility to me is not risk. My portfolio could lose 80% of its value. I can't say I wouldn't care about it because I would be pissed, but I know that that is a reality. I know that that is a potential outcome in the short term for the stock market. I don't know that stocks are going to go up forever, but for the history of the stock market in the United States, the trend has always been higher. So I believe, and there's 230 years or so of track record that informs this belief, that the volatility in my portfolio is not risk to me. So when stocks are down, if I have cash, I want to buy more. If I don't, fine, just ride the wave and let it crest again. So that's kind of how I would answer that question, if that's fair.
Well put. Well, please, if you haven't had the chance to hop on Twitter to jump into the conversation, please do. There was a comment that Justin Castelli, haven't met him yet, but he seems like a cool dude. I think you guys have had a little banter going back and forth.
Oh yeah,
He said
Justin's a great guy.
Yeah, he said it sounds like he referenced Notorious Big because Justin likes to reference hip hop. He says it sounds like you're asking what's beef, and of course that got me going. So I'm going to share my response to Justin with everyone because I had a little fun with this. So for those of you who know Biggie Smalls, there's a song called "What's Beef," and so I decided to rewrite it based on risk. So I said, risk is when you need to buy puts to go to sleep. Risk is when your retirement is all in CDs. Risk is when shorts on the QQQ turns into margin IOUs. And I'm through. So for my Biggie fans and for my FinTwits out there, you know what I'm saying. So
I would have said something like, you need 12 stacks to go to sleep when your mom's portfolio ain't safe up in the Wall Street. You know, those types of things. But
here we go.
I'm also a little bit of a Biggie fan.
There you go. Yeah. Join in. Yeah, I've also taken the persona as the mad advisor every now and then.
I've seen that.
I'm very mad. Yeah, and I'm very mad. So Twitter is fun. I enjoy Twitter. I will tell you, I was not active on Twitter at all until I found FinTwit. When I found FinTwit, I was like, where have you been all my life? Finally, some people I can actually talk to, because sometimes I'd like to just vent about different client situations or the questions that we have to deal with or scenarios that we find ourselves in. And like you said, being the solopreneur from the worldwide headquarters, there's no water cooler here that I can just go talk to my other fellow advisors. So Twitter kind of gives me the water cooler, because that's usually what happens. I'll doing some work and just take a break and I'll go walk my dog or, step outside and hop onto Twitter and see what FinTwit is doing. So, so if you want to get into if you want to be a fly on the wall of some financial advisor conversations, and there's a few CPAs in there as well. And of course, there's a surgeon in there. Follow the FinTwit. We have some fun out there. So Michael, with all of our guests, there is one question that we are dying to know. We're not dying. We really want to know, is what was your first memory of money?
Oh boy. My first memory. I don't know if this was my first memory of money, but this was sort of what clicked in my brain at a young age. My grandfather on my mom's side was a serial entrepreneur. His dream was to be a musician, and he did that. He traveled around the US playing big band swing, recorded albums, played at Radio City Music Hall and places like that. But he had several businesses throughout life. He was a child of the Depression, grew up in rural Eastern Washington in a town called Othello. I don't know if there's more than, when he grew up, there was probably not more than about 5,000 people there, probably less, in fact. Now maybe there's 20,000 people. It's small. It's probably not 20,000. It's probably like, he probably grew up with like 1,000. There's probably 5,000 now.
Wow.
They have a Walmart, so I don't know how many people you need to have in a small town to get a Walmart, but it's probably more than 1,000.
Everybody works there. Where do you work?
Pretty much, yeah. Um, and so he owned a gas station, he owned a farm, he owned, rental homes, all of these things. He was an entrepreneur. He never thought of himself that way. It's just this is just the things he did to put food on the table. When they so my mom was the middle of three kids. They lived in a small house and they needed more room, because they had three kids. So my grandfather just decided, let's cut part of the roof of the house off and build a room on top. And, it
You
was,
didn't need permits back then, none of that
I don't
stuff. You
think so. It was
just yeah,
probably
yeah.
this was probably the 1950s or early 60s, I would think. And so he was
Yeah.
just like, no one's going to bother me. I'll do it in 3 days, which is probably about what he did. He
Wow.
actually just passed away recently, but at
Oh,
94. So maybe I'll live a little bit longer than the
you
actuarial
will.
date.
You will. You will.
But he also had a business as a sign painter, which there's not a lot of that anymore because most of those things are printed or built out of neon and whatnot. Um, and so he had a sign shop behind his house, also something that I believe he built himself. But he would do more than just paint signs. He would do little, he'd build furniture and all sorts of stuff, right? Like your typical Depression era person would have done, right? Was that the Greatest Generation, the Silent Generation, or somewhere in between. And so he would pay me a penny for every nail that I found on the floor or the gravel like driveway behind his sign shop. From his perspective, it was, oh, this will cost me, 10 cents, 25 cents, whatever. And I can entertain the grandkids for 10 minutes and keep them out of my hair while I'm trying to do work. Um, and most of my cousins we'd all gather there for a week or 2 weeks or whatever in the summers. And my cousins, we all had the same deal. So my cousins would pick up 5 nails. Hey, let me get my nickel. Let me do this, whatever. And I'm not that old, right? So we're talking like this is the late 80s, early 90s. But I was like, no, forget that. I'm not going to pick up 5 of these and then go back inside and play with toys from the 1920s. I'm going to find every last nail I can find. And so I was like, all right, got a nail, got a nail, got a nail. And I would make, a buck, $2, $3. And
Mm.
we're talking 300 nails. I don't know what he was doing that he was dropping that many nails on the ground, but it was
Don't drive behind Michael's
behind.
grandfather's house. Just don't.
Yeah,
You
just
want to get a
don't do
flat
it.
tire.
Yeah. And you probably would have gotten a flat tire. Maybe that was part of the reason, but it for me it was, hey, look, here's a way to earn money. And I was
Okay.
probably 5, 6, 7 at the time. And small town, like you're almost going back in time in a town that small, or at least you were in the early 90s, or late 80s. And so, I'd make my $3. We'd walk up to the drugstore. Drugstore had a big candy section. I could
Oh
pick out
yeah, remember
anything I
those where it
wanted.
was like the bulk candy
It
section?
had like the barrels and stuff. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I'm telling
yeah,
you, like going back in time.
yeah.
And because if you go into downtown Seattle into a drugstore, you're not going to find
No, you're not. No.
that. But in back then, 30 years ago, whatever it was, 35 years ago, you could do that. So I had $3, $4, whatever. I could go buy whatever I wanted. I want to get the lemon heads, I get 2 of the lemon heads. And my cousin got some lemon heads too. I'm going to buy 2 of them because
Mhm.
I can.
Oh yeah.
And so that's probably one of the earliest memories that I have. But I've been a money nerd since forever. I used to go to the library and check out books about currencies, like from around the world, just to see what they looked like.
I am a foreign currency collector as well.
Okay.
And I want to ask if you've read Neil Ferguson's book, The Ascent of Money.
I, I don't think I've read that one. I have
Oh,
read some Neil Ferguson books, but I
if
don't
you
think I've
are
read The Ascent
if
of
you
Money.
are a money nerd, you will geek out on that book.
All right.
It's long. There's a lot in it, but it's good.
I love it.
It's good. Like I really enjoyed that book. For those that really want to get into the history of money and why. So it's funny because we mentioned Morgan Housel earlier. So Morgan Housel has, I would say, a light version of what Neil has in his book. And even what's the other one? Money, a true story of a made up thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a lighter version, but the Ascent of Money. Oh man. And just think of the title, The Ascent of Money. Oh, and that was also something we got into on Twitter with our surgeon friend. He was asking, why are they making ETFs with one stock in them?
Right.
And I said, to make money.
Yeah.
By make, I mean
reason.
create, like not to make your thing, not like make money, earn. No, just to make more money. That's it.
To attract other people's money.
Yep.
to them.
So and making new forms of money. Here we go. So we can nerd out about that a lot.
We could.
Michael, thank you so much for spending some time on the Money Script podcast. For those that are in I'm sure you're nationwide, at least. I mean, anywhere that you have more than 5 clients registered, and then other than that. So if you're looking for a new advisor, and you like what Michael had to say, feel free to look him up. Michael, how can they find you?
I mean, just you can Google me. Or am I allowed to say that? You can do a web search for me.
No. We can say Google. That's fine.
Okay. I'm trying to stay compliant here. Not a recommendation. All of that good stuff.
Disclaim. You can look. You can Google him. Yeah. That's.
I'm on Twitter, Mike Policar NGP, and that's where you'll find me most of the time. It kind of fills the gap. So I'm working. I'm on Twitter, or I'm on Twitter, or I'm with my family, or I'm on Twitter. And then when I can, I like to try and play golf. But that doesn't happen anywhere near as often as it should. I agree. Twitter's probably the best place to find me.
Beautiful. And again, to everyone, to all of our fans out there, Michael and I aren't each other's competition. Okay. Our greatest competition is your inertia. So if you took the time to at least listen to this podcast, I encourage you to take the time to sit down with either yourself or a significant other and say, hey, are we doing everything that we can to put ourselves in the best position to be financially independent? Okay. And if you're not, seek some help. If you're doing your taxes by yourself and you're unsure if you're taking all the right steps, seek some help. If you're wondering about your estate plan or what's going to happen if you pass away or you're incapacitated, seek some help. There's lots of very wise, intelligent, motivated professionals that are waiting for you to follow them on Twitter. So with that, we will see you next time on the Money Script podcast. Feel free to, of course, share this with a friend. Give us a 5-star rating or whatever the best rating that they have, because we like those. And when you rate the show, it makes it so that it shows up in other people's feeds. And we want more people to get this information, okay? Because we want to help motivate them off their seats of inertia. So with that, we will see you next time on the Money Script podcast. Everyone take care. Thanks for joining us on the Money Script podcast. Be sure to check out our other episodes, subscribe, follow, and give us 5 stars. Continue to send your financial questions on Twitter or Instagram at the Money Script. Go to moneyscriptwealth.com and schedule your complimentary consultation to discuss your specific goals and concerns. Financial advisory and investment management services are offered by Money Script Wealth Management PLLC, a registered investment advisory firm registered in the state of Texas and California and other states where exempt. The Money Script LLC and the Money Script Wealth Management PLLC and guests of the episode may have interest in the investments mentioned today. The opinions and views are expressed here are for informational purposes only. This material is educational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation for any specific product or service. All investments involve risk and a significant loss of principal. The Money Script nor Money Script Wealth Management offer tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney for specific advice about your situation. Until next time.